So I grew up in Smoketown. I was raised by my grandmother since I was 6 months old. You know, she did a really good job of shielding me from a lot of the things in our neighborhood. You know, and looking back, I see a lot of other kids that I grew up with that, you know, didn't make it out, that, you know, didn't finish high school or didn't have a chance to go to college or really any of the other opportunities that I was able to take advantage of. My name is Torrance Williams, and I am pushing Louisville to be better at producing racial equity in all aspects of society. I was the first in my family to graduate from college. I went to University of Louisville, majored in industrial engineering. My move out to St. Matthews from being in Smoketown was probably the largest move that I've had. The weirdest thing about getting older and moving from, you know, poverty and lower class into, you know, upper middle class or whatever, you know, you would classify me as, is the idea that, you know, I've gained privilege. And I've realized that I don't ever want to forget how I was brought up. I don't ever want to forget the community that I came from. Both of my parents were both addicted to cocaine. You know, I was hit by cycles of incarceration, cycles of poverty, and really the major root cause when we talk about this of why we have all of these negative effects in low-income communities and communities of color today is when we look at redlining. They were able to separate white families from black families and to keep black families from accessing capital, keeping them from buying homes, keeping them from being able to build wealth. So, you know, if you ever needed an idea of whether or not redlining is still taking an effect, the deed restrictions on the house that I lived in actually said for a very long time that could only be sold to white people. And so then here in my neighborhood of Richlawn, I'm actually one of 2 minorities that lives in our neighborhood of 200 houses, and that's it. If we are as intentional in building these communities up and giving them the resources that they need to survive as we were with intentionally destroying these communities with redlining, we could put away our racial tags and all of the issues that we have in 10 years. It would be completely gone. We have to put pressure on our politicians, on our legislators to make sure that they have enough resources and information and knowledge so that they can have the basic tools that they need to succeed in order to make better decisions. But let's get everybody to that same starting point to make it better for all people.
Let's go!
You know I thank God so
we out here fighting with you, and we will see justice.
Say her name.
It's like a housewarming party with a few dozen of their closest friends.
Because it felt like a family reunion, and a family reunion of freedom fighters.
How does it feel to be the usual suspect? Murdered live on social media by those sworn to serve and protect, gunned down in the streets holding Skittles and tea.
A new start.
We have moved into Louisville, Kentucky, and home sweet home.
The next chapter for United Freedom to join forces with Louvillians.
I'm from Minneapolis. That's why I came here to activate and to help people from Kentucky realize that we are with you all. We're going to keep fighting for Breonna Taylor.
Leslie Redmond is one of about 25 people now calling this city home.
And I'm going to be here until we need to be.
And this entry was the spark many needed after 73 days of protests.
This felt like a celebration.
I think joy is revolutionary, right? Because people have been burdened with oppression for so long. We need people to know that the fight is still going.
We're gonna prosecute you.
It's in the feet. I mean, it's everywhere. It's beautiful.
Let those balloons go. That represents our black lives.
Just one day before the anniversary of Michael Brown's death, his father left Ferguson for Louisville.
I'm very, very grateful just to be here and memorize Breonna Taylor.
Sending a message.
We might look okay in the facial, but we dying in the inside.
To be a part of a movement, not just a moment.
I can't go back to not knowing or not being involved or not having a voice. Those days are over for me.
And to give hope for a better tomorrow.
You never want people to get hopeless. You know what I mean? Hope is important.
All I wanna do is break the chains off. All I wanna do is be free.
For the 19th.
Come on, say her name. Say yeah.
I'm Jessie Cohen. At first glance, especially on a rainy day, this could be any other Halloween display.
You know, this is the time of year where everybody brings their decorations out.
But then you stop.
It's
still Halloween themed.
And notice just how real it is.
Breonna Taylor murdered March 13th, 2020.
That we chose to really bring our feelings from how we feel and bring it outside so that everybody else can see that as well.
Maggie McCreary and her family didn't want to be just another house on the block.
We really wanted to take Halloween and use this as a template to really express how we feel in our family about Black Lives Matter.
Their front yard has turned into a Black Lives Matter graveyard.
His name wasn't really talked about, it wasn't mentioned, so we gave him a flower to make him feel extra special. Freddie and Gray murdered
just because of the color of their skin.
Yeah.
It's really disturbing the amount of names that you could choose.
Too many stories to count.
The way that he was saying he couldn't breathe.
But all too real to forget, making these kids pause in their yard.
It's sad because all these people died just because of the color of their skin.
Front and center this Halloween.
Kind of have it in your face a little bit more, and I'm hoping that it's a great way for children to be brought into this conversation.
This family hoping they don't have to add any more names to these tombstones.
I feel like we're all just people, and the color of your skin shouldn't matter.
For the Night Team, I'm Jessie Cohen.
They're so small, they're so tiny.
When Chip Polston bought his kids Legos years ago, he knew eventually they'd outgrow them.
They've both grown up quite a bit.
But as Zach and Jackson became teenagers, he had no idea it would be so hard to let go.
If I had not discovered through Zach that I still enjoyed building, this would have been something that I did as a kid and just had left behind a long time ago. So you build them in sections.
He loved putting those plastic pieces together as a kid.
And we got the first 2 floors done here.
But tucked his box of blocks away on a shelf when he got older, until he had boys of his own.
Easier than trying to find a needle in a haystack.
That's when his Lego love was rebuilt in his basement. And instead of ending up back on that same shelf, he decided they were better suited for display.
I mean, there's a bakery over here, there's a pet shop, there's the city hall, there's a movie theater, there's a shopping complex, you got a grocery store, firehouse, bank. My name's Chip Polston. I like to think of myself as a Lego enthusiast. Others may call it Lego nerd.
He's surrounded by his own life-size adult playground turned museum.
Believe it or not, I really don't tell a whole lot of people about it. No, it's amazing to really come down here and look around with it.
Just look left, right, up, or down. Something special will always catch your eye.
Because you've got so many different scenes through here and people walking around the little city and everything like that.
The whole room captures the Polston boys' childhoods.
Things that I very vividly remember playing with as a kid, to things that the boys and I built together when they were younger, to things that I've enjoyed building as I've kept on going with it. The full Statue of Liberty, the Millennium Falcon.
Every item on display begins with a story.
These are some of the first things that Lego ever made.
And ends with a memory.
My youngest especially used to love kind of the capping off where he could put the last piece on there.
Although his sons may have moved on, there are still plenty of pieces to hold on to.